You may have heard that exercise is one of the most potent tools to prevent insulin resistance and diabetes. And while this is true, it's always interesting to know why. So insulin resistance and diabetes typically happens because the muscle and the liver are no longer able to respond to the presence of insulin, therefore will continue to secrete insulin. However, these cells do not respond to the hormone, therefore they do not do the function of increasing glucose, amino acid, and fatty acid uptake out of the bloodstream. This results in an impaired ability to get fuel to the muscle, and an impaired ability for the muscle to uptake amino acids and instigate protein synthesis, which is why many diabetics and people who are insulin resistant will begin to lose muscle. Additionally, insulin is important at the level of the liver to prevent the liver from going through what's called glycogenolysis, or the breakdown of stored glucose. It also prevents the liver to release fatty acids into the bloodstream. But again, when the liver becomes insulin resistant, it no longer gets this signal and continues to release glucose and fatty acids into the bloodstream. And high levels of glucose in the bloodstream can cause vascular damage, which leads to many of the complications of diabetes, such as retinopathy or possibly losing limbs. Because insulin resistance also impairs our ability to repair the damage done by elevated glucose. Additionally, we'll see on blood work high triglycerides because the liver is constantly releasing fat into the bloodstream because it perceives that there's low insulin, meaning there's low supply of fuel. And these high triglycerides in the bloodstream can actually make insulin resistance worse. And here's why. You see, the most common cause of insulin resistance is not a dysfunction with the receptor. Instead, it's a dysfunction with the proteins that typically are upregulated in response to insulin binding to the receptor. You see, when insulin binds to the receptor, all these little proteins inside of the cell start responding. And these proteins are responsible for all of insulin's functions. With that being said, sometimes we can get fatty deposits inside of a cell. And these fatty deposits will inhibit all of these proteins from functioning correctly. You see, we naturally store fat inside of muscles and inside of our liver cells. And this fat is actually used as a fuel source during exercise or when we're not eating. But if we're not utilizing the stored fat, it begins to rancidify. And that sounds scary, but it's simply just a process of fats turning into different molecules that are not functional. Specifically, something referred to as a ceramide. And as you can see, denoted by this line that means inhibited, ceramides inhibit all of these proteins involved in responding to insulin. And the most potent way to use the fat before it has the chance to rancidify is to exercise. Additionally, storing excess body fat will increase the accumulation of fat inside the muscle and the liver, which is why there's virtually a linear relationship between insulin resistance and obesity. With that being said, if you want to learn how to take control of your health and energy and prevent insulin resistance or even reverse it, send me a DM to sign up for coaching.